Hey, I'm Michael, and I'm just a normal high school student with a casual life like everyone else. I was kind of a computer geek, not in the sense of computer games, but more on codes and exploring things on the internet. The internet is a great platform for any age group to learn and enhance their knowledge on just about anything. And I used to spend hours browsing various websites, taking in all the information I could. Some could say it's an unhealthy obsession, but I didn't really care. However, inevitably, due to the amount of time I spend browsing the deep web, I came across the creepiest website on the internet. And to this day, I still get goosebumps every time I tell this story. Everyone knows of the dark web, right? The things we usually search for are on the World Wide Web, but that's only a small percentage of the material available on the internet. There is so much more going on somewhere deeper in that digital space, and it is said that criminals use that part of the internet to communicate and transact to avoid getting tracked. For a person who is fond of browsing different things on the internet, you can only imagine how exciting it was for me to try to access the inaccessible. In time, with a lot of research and hard work, I finally found the path to access the dark web. I had to make sure I was alone and that no one could disturb me while I embarked on this thrilling adventure. People usually go on adventures outside by going to different exciting places, but I was going on a very exclusive and much exhilarating adventure right from my own room. Thinking about it now, I should have been more careful. I was well aware of the dangers as I had researched everything I needed to know about that sinister part of the internet. Every illegal activity was carried out on the dark web. From selling drugs and weapons to the illegal distribution of pornographic material, and even the availability of live kill rooms. Just thinking about these things would make a typical person think twice about participating in this. But I wasn't affected at all at the time. I wanted to explore new territories and experience new things. The night had finally come. My parents were in bed, and there was no one to disrupt my peace. I was all alone in my room, with the lights switched off and my laptop in front of me. I followed the guidelines I previously wrote up to access the dark web. I downloaded a VPN because apparently you cannot access the dark web without that. It changes your location to avoid websites from tracing your activity back to you. All this is done for the user's safety because there are hundreds of hackers on the dark web that may have malicious intentions or could seriously harm you. I read a few stories about hackers gaining control of a person's computer and blackmailing them into doing all sorts of disturbing things. I didn't want to fall for it, so I prepared myself accordingly. After that, I switched to incognito mode to avoid the browser saving the history, and voila! I was all set to start my journey. I searched for a few different links to access on the dark web. To be honest, it was a bit tricky. The links were very different compared to the usual website links. I also had to stay vigilant because a small mistake could have caused a lot of problems for me. The tension just kept building inside me as I browsed from website to website. Finally, I got to one that dealt drugs. I swear I couldn't contain the excitement I felt. Different illegal drugs that I've only ever seen or heard of in movies were right before my eyes. I learned you can't use normal cash or a fixed standard of currency to buy these things. You have to use bitcoins because they cannot be traced to the source. Adrenaline pumped through my veins. I was just getting started, and I was eager to find out more. I had all night, and no one could stop me. The next website I found myself in was all about hiring a hitman. I can assure you, I hadn't seen anything that bizarre before. There were even different options with different rates. Drawing a contract for a person of high stature and security would cost more than that of a common person. I just couldn't believe this. Did people really hire people to kill? That definitely sent chills down my spine. I could sense that things were gradually getting creepier and should have stopped at that point. But I didn't. I went on, only to find myself in a live kill room. In the beginning, the screen was all red, and there was a huge disclaimer saying to proceed only if you're 18 plus. Oh boy, Did I regret clicking that agree button? I mean, come on, no one should have had to see that. Obviously, I couldn't stomach it, so I closed that tab as soon as it opened. As I was looking for more sites, things started to get out of hand. While scrolling down to see a couple more links, I found a peculiar one. It read, "Open to make your dreams come true." I mean, something like that posted on a place like the dark web certainly meant harm, right? But I clicked anyway. Looking back, I should have closed that window entirely after witnessing the live kill room and watched a slasher movie instead. But I was adamant on finding out what this site was about, and my stubbornness was bound to make matters worse. The site asked me to enter my name, and I was smart enough to not type the actual thing, so I typed in doll007. I laughed it off and proceeded. Nothing seemed too strange, except that the site kept on redirecting me to different websites to make my dreams come true. Soon enough, I was in a trance, and I only fell deeper and deeper into it. I finally got to the end of the tunnel, and it was completely blank. The screen was black for a while, and I could have had the chance to close the window and call it a day, but I waited. It took a while, which made me think, was it a complete scam? So I decided to give up. I clicked on the button that was supposed to close the window, but a new tab opened on yet another blank screen. But this time, it was red. After a while, the following words were slowly typed out on the screen. "Where are you going, Michael?" Life drained out of me. I tried to catch my breath. What seemed to be a chat box appeared underneath the message, so I gathered all the courage I had left and typed back. "How do you know my name?" I couldn't leave. This person knew my name. I had to know how much this person knew about me. Oh, I know much more. Before I could think of something to say, a picture caught from my laptop's camera displayed on the screen. It was fairly dark, but you could make out my face from the photo. I could tell it was just taken too. This person took a photo of me through my laptop's camera. I was paralyzed. "Why are you doing this?" I typed back hesitantly, knowing I should have just closed the window. In those mere seconds, I visualized 1,000 ways that chapter could have ended. I could have been enslaved to his desires by being blackmailed. He could have coerced me into doing horrible things. My life hung in the balance, and I was losing it. Because I want to fulfill all your dreams, Michael. That very sentence gave me the creeps. I really wanted to know who that person was in real life. Probably a guy who's a nobody living in his mom's basement. A guy who lived off the miseries of others who fell for his hacks and scams. I didn't want to be another victim. I decided to dial someone up. I couldn't wake my parents. I couldn't involve them. I moved away from my laptop and tried calling my friend Jamie. But I couldn't. The call kept dropping and I kept losing signal. This had never happened before. At that very moment, I received a message from an unregistered number. "No one can help. I'm all you got." I literally smashed my phone into the wall and jumped into bed. I wanted my freedom. I didn't know what to do. But soon enough, my survivor instinct kicked in. Years of browsing random things finally paid off. Anyone who considered I wasted my time was so very wrong. I had read a few stories and a few strategies to adopt in case someone hacked and took control of your devices. As a result, I covered the laptop's camera with my hand and closed the window. As I was trying to delete every possible piece of personal information I had on the computer, a new window popped up. "You cannot hide from me." Oh God, what had I gotten myself into? I couldn't think of any other thing to do. Nothing seemed to be working. I was so deep into this mess, and it was all my fault. With no other idea coming to my mind, I resorted to the final possible thing. I ran down to the garage, laptop tucked under my arm and phone in my pocket. Got a hammer from my dad's tools and smashed both of them into pieces. I gathered the pieces and dumped them outside the house. I ran up to my room and hid under the blankets. I kept the lights on and hoped for everything to end. I stayed up all night. I mean, how could you sleep after something like that? I stumbled upon the creepiest website on the internet, and now I know never to mess with the dark web ever again. Thanks for staying until the end of my story, and I hoped you learned a thing or two from me. Let us know in the comments below if you've ever had a creepy internet story yourself.